Jai Hind, dear children. Last class you have studied about history chapter Nationalism in India. Today I am also going to teach you another history chapter related to the idea of nationalism. Which is the chapter? That is the rise of nationalism in Europe. This is also a very important chapter related to history. So, the main idea in this chapter is how nationalism spread in European continent, especially in some important countries like France, Germany, Italy, Britain. So, before going directly into the topic, first we want to know what is the meaning of the term nationalism, or what is the meaning of the term patriotism. What is the meaning of the term nationalism or patriotism? It's a feeling of oneness and common consciousness that merges when people living in a common territory share the same historical, political, and cultural background. That means a feeling of oneness in our minds. It's a feeling of love or pride towards our nation. If we are having that feeling of pride or love towards our nation, then we are ready to do anything for our country. That we are going to study in this chapter. At first, all countries were under the control of rulers or kings. That means a monarchical rule. But later, the idea of nationalism developed all around the world and spread among countries with some reasons that led to the rise of nation states. So this nation states, it helped a lot to just throw away the cruel rule or the despotic rule of the monarchy and to have people's own government. So here we want to understand what is a nation state. We can call it as modern state also because it is having all the characteristics of a modern state. So shall we have a look on the meaning of this term nation state. A nation state is a state or country that has defined borders and territories. It is additionally a country in which a nation of principally the same type of people exist, organized by either race or culture or background. So, in short, we can say a nation state is the one in which citizens share the common unity relating to history, culture, language, and tradition. I hope this definition is very easy for you to understand. So, what is a nation state? A nation state is the one in which citizens share the sense of common unity relating to history, culture, language, and tradition. In Europe, nationalism spread, especially in countries like France, Germany, Italy, Britain. So, the main challenge faced by European countries were the change from a monarchy rule to a democratic rule that leads to the formation of nation states or modern states. So, to replace the multinational dynastic empire of Europe, the emergence of nation states are very important. Your chapter begins with a very good example related to this idea, that is transformation from a monarchy rule to a modern state. Here, from the beginning of the chapter itself, we are going to study a new personality in France. So in this chapter, you want to study many great personalities, new terms and important events related to the idea of or the spread of nationalism in Europe. So before going directly to the chapter, in order to understand it very well, first we want to have a glance on the new terms included in this chapter. Also about important events happened in this area and various great personalities or characters who took part in all these events. So first of all, just have a look on the new terms related to this chapter. First term is absolutist. What is absolutist? It's a form of monarchical government that was centralized, militarized, and repressive. So that means that it's a system of government or a system of rule without restraint on the power exercise. We are giving more importance to the monarchy power as a result of this new idea, that is absolutist. An absolutist theory is also there in the European continent, which were given a lot of importance by the monarchs. The rulers want to be absolute monarchs, rules with complete power, believe in divine right, and that the monarchs represent God on earth. And they want to safeguard this absolutism all through the 17th century. So next term is utopian. Utopian vision. What is the meaning of this term utopian? It's a vision of a society that is so ideal that it is unlikely to actually exist. Because if we are following this idea of utopian in a society, we can see only the merits. If we are having that type of government also, we can see only the merits in that government. But in today's world, this type of merits can't exist, because where there is merit, there is demerit also. So that is the main idea of this term utopian. Next is the meaning of the term suffrage. What is the meaning of the term suffrage? It's having the same meaning of this word universal adult franchise. That means right to vote. Every citizen in the country is having the right to vote. That is the meaning of the term suffrage or universal adult franchise. So next term is feminist. What is the meaning of this idea feminist? It is an awareness of women's right and interest based on the belief of the social, economic, political equality of the genders. That means through this feminist movements, both women's and men's were the members of this feminist movements. And through these movements, they want to give awareness about the rights and interest of the two genders. Two genders, that means males and females, want to be equal everywhere in the society, both politically, economically, and socially. That is known as a feminist. That is the main ideology behind this term feminist. Equality everywhere. Females want equality everywhere. That is the main ideology behind this term feminist. Next, what is a allegory, or what is the meaning of this allegory? It is expressing our national spirit with some symbols. So when we express our national spirit or nationalism with the help of some symbols, we can call it as allegory. An allegorical story is having two meanings. One, it gives a literal meaning, and another one gives us a symbolic meaning. So when an abstract idea is expressed through a person or a thing, we can call it as a allegory. For example, in your chapter Nationalism in India, we are just studying about this allegory in this state of collective belongings. There you are studying about the image of Bharat Mata. That is the allegory we are having in our country. Through this idea of Bharat Mata, we are expressing our idea of nationalism or our spirit of nationalism. In the similar way, every country is having their own allegorical figures to express their spirit of nationalism. Plebiscite. What is plebiscite? It's having another term also that you have studied in your 9th standard. That is referendum. You have studied in Pakistan, Pervez Musharraf, he led a referendum to extend his power to 5 years. So that is a similar term or similar idea for this plebiscite also. It is a direct vote by which all the people of a region are asked to accept or reject a proposal. So the governing bodies, they want to know whether whatever ideas or policies or decisions they are taking, they are right or wrong, and they are understanding it with the help of a voting process. That is known as plebiscite or a referendum. It is a direct vote system in which the people, they can accept or reject a proposal. That is known as plebiscite or a referendum. Next, conservatism, or who is a conservatist. So what is conservatism? It is a political philosophy that stresses the importance of tradition, established institutions and customs, and preferred gradual development to quick change. So this conservatism, it is a philosophy which the person who just give a lot of importance to this conservatism ideas, they were known as conservatists. And these conservatives, they are giving a lot of importance to our traditions, our traditional ideas. They don't want that much of change in the society. They want to have everything in the traditional way. That means customs, institutions, our ruling bodies, everything they want to have in a traditional way. They don't want to have a modernization. That type of thinking, personalities or ideas were known as a conservatism. So we discussed about the new terms which were included in this chapter, rise of nationalism in Europe. So now we want to study about the important events occurred as a part of rise of nationalism in Europe. Along with these important events, you want to study the dates also, because for your multiple choice questions, 1 mark questions, this dates is also very important. So go through these events and dates very carefully and study it very well. So the first event you want to study, and the beginning of this chapter itself, is a French Revolution. You want to study in detail about the French Revolution. In which year it's happened in 1789. You are very familiar with Napoleon Bonaparte, and this famous personality, he put forward many reforms also. That reforms were known as Napoleonic Code or a Civil Code, and it was developed in the year 1804. Another important is the treaty happened in Vienna in 1815. It was known as the Treaty of Vienna. This treaty was hosted by Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich. The main objective of this treaty was to once again restore the monarchy rule in France and to brought some changes put forward by Napoleon Bonaparte, all that. So this treaty is very important in the history of Europe. The Treaty of Vienna in 1815. The Great Economic Hardship. The decades of 1830 has brought about great economic hardship in Europe. These years are known as the years of economic hardships, 1830 to 1848. Great economic depression happened in Europe because everywhere unemployment, food shortage, and a lot of other problems, hungers, revolts, revolutions, everything faced by the people in Europe during this period from 1830 to 1848. So this 1830, that year is known as the economic depression or the great economic hardship year in Europe. Next is the July Revolution, which happened in 1830. It is the first upheld took place in France. As a part of this July Revolution in France, a lot of problems happened because already economic depression is there in Europe. At the same time, this July Revolution sparkled an uprising in Brussels, which led to Belgium breaking away from the United Kingdom of Netherlands. So a lot you want to study related to this July Revolution of 1830. So another important event related to the rise of nationalism in Europe is the July Revolution of 1830. Next is the Treaty of Constantinople of 1832. This treaty is very important related to the Greek War of Independence. because Greece was once a part of the Ottoman Empire since the 15th century. And when this nationalism spirit developed in Europe, it sparkled in Greece also. So they began to develop this idea of nationalism and they also want to become independent. So a lot of struggles happened there also. And as a part of this Treaty of Constantinople of 1832, Greece was recognized as an independent nation. So all these events you are going to study in detail in this chapter, the rise of nationalism in Europe. Formation of sovereign in 1834. It is a custom union formed at the initiative of Prussia and joined by most of the German states to overthrow the tariff barriers created by Napoleon Bonaparte, because Napoleon, in order to make some economic reforms, he put forward some new ideas. So in order to overcome all those, the sovereign was formed by the most of the German states and Prussia in 1834. On 18 May 1848, in the city of Frankfurt, in the church of St. Paul, 831 elected representatives, they formed a parliament for the well-being of the citizens, all that. That is known as the Frankfurt Parliament in Germany in 1848. Another important event is Unification of Italy, how Italy became a unified country. This unification of Italy, it was happened in the year 1861. So just like the unification of Italy, the unification of Germany is also very important to make Germany a very powerful country. And three wars are there related to this unification of Germany. The first main war related to unification of Germany is the Danish Prussian War, which was fought in the year 1864. This Danish Prussian War was fought between Denmark and Prussia and the Austrian Empire. So this Danish Prussian War was fought between Denmark, Prussia and the Austrian Empire. The second war is the Austro-Prussian War. It is very important in the world history, because this war fought in 1866 is known in various names in our history. It is also known as 7 Weeks War or German Civil War, Unification War, War of 1866, the Fraternal War, the Brothers' War, and in Germany it was also famous as a German War. So this Austro-Prussian War, it is having a lot of names. It was fought in the year 1866 and this war was fought between Prussia and Austrian Empire. The third war is the Franco-Prussian War. It was fought in the year 1870. And this Franco-Prussian War, it was also known as Franco-German War. It was fought between France and the Prussian Empire. So the Franco-Prussian War, otherwise known as Franco-German War, was fought in the year 1870 and it was fought between France and Prussian Empire. Another important event related to this chapter is the Balkan Rebellion in 1871. This is the last important event you want to study in this chapter, Rise of Nationalism in Europe. Next topic we are going to study is the important personalities related to this chapter. The first great personality in this chapter is Frederick Sorio. He was a famous French artist, a printmaker, engraver and a draftsman. He painted a very famous painting in 1848. The name of that painting was The Dream of Worldwide Democratic and Social Republic. So once again, what is the name of that painting? The Dream of Worldwide Democratic and Social Republics. It deals with the idea of modern state or a nation state. Next is the famous personality, that is Napoleon Bonaparte. He was very famous in Europe. He was a French dictator and a military general. And he declared himself as the Emperor of France also. He put forward a lot of reforms in France and in Europe. And he died at the Battle of Waterloo. So next is Louis Phillip. He was the constitutional monarch of France, and he became the king of France from 1836 to 1848. And this Louis Philippe, he was also related with the July Revolution of 1830. Next is Kaiser Wilhelm I. After the unification of Germany, he became the German emperor from 1871 to 1888. And this Kaiser Wilhelm I was also the king of Prussia. Giuseppe Mazzini. He was a revolutionary of Italy. He formed many secret societies, and he was also the member of the secret society of the Carbonari. He formed a secret society named as Young Italy in 1831. And he was also famous as a soul or heart of the unification of Italy. Next, Giuseppe Garibaldi. He was also a revolutionary of Italy. He was also famous as a Bismarck of Italy, and he was also known as the sword of Italy. He was an Italian general, and he was very famous personality in the unification of Italy, and he was also a famous personality behind the creation of the Kingdom of Italy. His military group were known as the Red Shirts. He is considered to be one of Italy's fathers of the fatherland. With the help of his military group, Red Shirts, he put forward a lot of programs and ideas for the unification of Italy. Next great personality is Count of Cavour. He is famous as a Prime Minister of Italy. In intelligent way, he put forward a lot of programs and ideas for the unification of Italy. If Mazzini is known as the soul of Italy, Garibaldi is known as the sword of Italy, then this Count of Cavour, he was known as the brain of Italy. That means the main brain behind the unification of Italy. Another famous personality in this chapter, the rise of nationalism in Europe, is Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich. Who is that? Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich. And he is famous because he headed the Treaty of Vienna. Victor Emmanuel II. He was a center figure of the movement for the unification of Italy. That means he was a center figure in the unification of Italy. So, he was the king of Sardinia. But after the unification of Italy in 1861, he became the first king of Italy, unified Italy. Johan Godfried Herder. He was a famous German philosopher who put forward or spread the idea of nationalism in Germany and all around Europe. Otto von Bismarck. He was a prince of Bismarck. He was an Iron Chancellor. And this Otto von Bismarck, he was a conservative German statesman who masterminded the unification of Germany in 1871. He was the first Chancellor of Germany, and he was a Prime Minister of Prussia also. And he was a great personality, and he was considered as the founder of German Empire. Now we are going to start our topic or our chapter in detail. So first, as an introduction, it describes in detail about the French artist Frédéric Soriot and his famous painting, the dream of worldwide democratic and social republic. Then the chapter consists of around 7 sections. The chapter consists of around 7 sections. In all these 7 sections, you want to study in detail about the various events happened in Europe as a result of the spread of nationalism. Shall we move to our chapter? Okay. So first in this chapter, the rise of nationalism in Europe. We want to study in detail about the famous painting of Frederick Sorio, a French artist in 1848. Frederick Sorio, a French artist or a printmaker or an engraver and draftsman, prepared a famous painting of 4 series of prints. And the name of his famous painting was The Dream of Worldwide Democratic and Social Republics. So what was the name of his famous painting? The Dream of Worldwide Democratic and Social Republics. Through this painting, he wanted to express his visualization about the idea of transformation from a monarchy rule to a democratic rule. So he painted this picture in such a way that those countries who got freedom is coming first with their own national flags. And he also expressed his idea of freedom with the help of image of Statue of Liberty by highlight it in such a way that those countries who secure freedom from the monarchy rule were the first to march towards the famous Statue of Liberty. Why Frederick Sorio highlighting the Statue of Liberty in his paintings? Because the French philosophers personified liberty as a female figure with a torch of enlightenment on one hand and the charters of rights of man on the other hand. That is a famous Statue of Liberty, and because of that, Frederick Sorio is also giving a lot of importance to this Statue of Liberty. The people of Europe and America were the first to march towards the Statue of Liberty and pass by it after offering their homage. That means their respect shown publicly to this Statue of Liberty. And United States in this flag or in this figure we can see that in this painting we can see that the United States were the first to march towards the Statue of Liberty with their flag having the colors of red, white, blue. Then came Switzerland with their flag white and red. And these two countries, they were already become nation states, that they become modern states. Then came France. The France, they are having the tricolor revolutionary flag, blue, red and white. So next to France were Germany, having flag colors of black, red and gold. So we want to understand that during this time German people didn't think about their unification, because Germany was a scattered area during Sorio's time, which later became a unified nation only after 1848. So at that time also Sorio think about the unification of Germany, and he just given them a flag with tricolor, that is black, red and gold. Followed by Germany came Austria, Kingdom of the Two Sicilies, Lombardy, Poland, England, Ireland, Hungary and Russia. So all these areas also want to become nation states. So or in the vision of Frederick Sorio, he thought that these countries were the next to become nation states or modern states. That's why he included all these areas in his famous painting, The Dream of Worldwide Democratic and Social Republic, painted in the year 1848. From the heavens above, we can see Christ, saints and angels gaze upon the scene. They have been used by Frederick Sorio to symbolize fraternity among the nations of the world. What is fraternity? It's a friendship or a mutual support within a group. That means these countries, they were having a mutual support or a friendship or a brotherhood among themselves, that feeling among themselves. So that feeling was showered by Christ, saints and angels from the heaven. And in the 19th century, nationalism also spread in Europe, brought about many changes in the political and mental way. These changes led to the transition from a multinational dynastic empire to the emergence of a nation states, where people began to have some commonalities. So we are going to study about this transition in detail in France. French Revolution and the idea of the nation. The first clear expression of nationalism came with the French Revolution in 1789. In your 9th standard, you studied about French Revolution, so just have a recall about it. French Revolution helped to overcome all powers created by monarchy rule in France and to attain democratic rule. During the time of the French Revolution, France at first was ruled by the Bourbon dynasty. And during this time, that means during the French Revolution, Louis XVI was the Emperor of France. The society of France were divided into 3 sections known as estates. First estate clergy, second estate nobility, and third estate peasants. And the first 2 estates enjoy all privileges by birth, and only the third estate was burdened with the taxation. Slavery, all problems. Last, there arose a new group from the third estate known as middle class. It includes educated persons like doctors, teachers, philosophers, and entrepreneurs, that means merchants. And this group worked hard to overthrow monarchy rule in France and to have a democratic form of government or the republican form of government. That means the middle class among the third estate is mainly responsible for the rise of this democratic form of government in France. The middle class was of the opinion that the first estate or the second estate, which includes rich landlords, even though their population is very less, but they were having full powers in society, even enjoy all rights, having power over all land. But the third estate where they belong were consist of poor peasants or farmers who were low class people, no rights in society, financially backward, and their population is very high compared to others. So the middle class developed a liberal nationalist thought in Europe, especially among the philosophers who belong to this group. The liberal thoughts include a nation with individual freedom, equality before law, freedom of market, government by consent, that people can choose their own government. So the main ideas put forward by the philosophers among the middle class were individual freedom, equality before law, freedom of market, and government by consent. In order to make France a nation state, the French revolutionaries developed a sense of collective identity in France. So here I am giving you the various steps taken by the French revolutionaries in the idea of collective identity among the French people in France. So the first one is the idea of la patrie and la citoyen. La patrie means fatherland and la citoyen means giving importance to citizens. So this idea was developed to have a feeling of nationalism just like our Bharat Mata and to create oneness in the minds of people. That means the idea of la patrie and la citoyen symbolize a community who enjoy all rights in an equal way. The next is a new French flag. That means a new tricolor French flag was chosen to replace the formal royal standard. This tricolor flag includes colors like blue, red, and white. Just like the national flag in India with tricolor, this tricolor flag was also developed in France to show the unity of the country. Next is the formation of National Assembly. Active citizens of Third Estate formed National Assembly by renaming Estate General, and they taken oaths. Hymns were composed and martyrs were commemorated, all in the name of the nation. A centralized administrative system was developed, and all citizens of one nation were under one administrative system, and also uniform laws were also developed within its territory. Internal custom duties and dues were abolished. That means all internal customs duties were removed to consider all are one and want to pay same taxes. At the same time, uniform system of weights and measures were also adopted to consider all citizens as one and to have a uniformity in economic matters also. In area of language, regional dialects were discouraged or abolished, and French language, as it was spoken and written in Paris only, it was given more importance and it was considered as the common language of the nation. The French revolutionaries also declared that it was the destiny of the French nation or French army to spread the idea of nationalism to other European nations. So, students and educated middle class from Jacobin clubs to spread this idea, and from France, the idea of nationalism was spread by the French armies to Holland, Belgium, Italy, and Switzerland. Along with the French armies, another military dictator or military general, that is Napoleon Bonaparte, also tried to spread the ideas based on nationalism in other countries with the help of his army. After becoming the dictator or emperor of France, Napoleon destroyed the democratic government set up by people and once again re-established monarchy rule. But in administration, he put forward a lot of new measures, which came to be known as the Napoleonic Code of 1804 or Civil Code of 1804, through which he came to be known as the modernizer of Europe. He was of the opinion that if rulers are committed, then best administrative system will be there in that country. So he set up the Napoleonic Code or Civil Code of 1804. So now we are going to study in detail what all measures are adopted by Napoleon in his Napoleonic Code of 1804 to make administration more better and perfect. The first measure taken by Napoleon Bonaparte in his Napoleonic Code of 1804 was the abolition of privileges based on birth. That means that the French society was divided into three estates. First estate clergy, second estate nobility, and third estate the common people. The first two estates, they were exempted from the payment of taxes. That means they don't want to pay the tax. At the same time, they are having some rights to collect taxes also. So that privilege of the first estate and second estate were abolished by Napoleon through his Napoleonic Code of 1804. Next is he established equality before law. That means all citizens are equal before law. There is no division between citizens as first estate, second estate or third estate. He considered every citizen as equal before law. He put forward a new idea or law that is known as right to property. That means all are having full right on their own property. He abolished feudal system, serfdom and manorial dues. So what is a feudal system? The feudal lords, they are having right to collect taxes from the peasants, that is known as feudal system. And serfdom, it is also similar to this feudal system. Serfs, they are just making use of the peasants for working as laborers in their field and also collecting taxes from them. That also abolished by Napoleon. The third one is manorial dues. What is a manor? A big peasant who is collecting taxes from his laborers. That is also abolished by Napoleon. So he abolished feudal system, serfdom and manorial dues. To flourish trade, guild restrictions were abolished. What is a guild? A guild system means merchants formed groups known as guilds, and it helped them to have collective bargaining also. So that guild system where guild restrictions were abolished by Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte, as a part of his Napoleonic Code of 1804, he improved the transport and communication system also. He centralized weights and measures, because before that there was no uniform system in weights and measures, but Napoleon made an equality in weights and measures. He introduced an uniform system of laws and common system of currency also. So because of all this, he was known as the modernizer of Europe. But peasants, artisans, workers and new businessmen enjoyed a lot of freedom under his control. That's why he was known as the modernizer of Europe. French armies under the control of Napoleon conquered parts of Europe by controlling territories like Holland, Switzerland, cities like Brussels, Mainz, Milan, Warsaw, and introduced their new ideas of administrative codes in these areas. So the population in these areas called them as harbingers of liberty. They called them, these French armies, as harbingers of liberty. But this situation changed within a few time. For example, in Belgium, the citizens of Belgium welcomed the French army first as harbingers of liberty, but later they turned hostile or hostility towards them. Hostility means a feeling of anger towards them. So various reasons is there because of this anger towards the French army. These reasons related to the demerits of Napoleon's administrative system that we are going to study next. The following are some of the demerits that Napoleon is having in his administrative matters. Why Napoleon is having this much of demerits in his administrative matters? Because after conquering areas, Napoleon was not that much liberal in administrative matters like his own country. At the same time, he started introducing some new measures or methods in administrative areas also. The one among them was he started forced conscription of people in French army. What is a conscription, or what is the meaning of the term conscription? Conscription means forced recruitment of people. So when this forced recruitment happened in French army, it created a lot of problem also. He increased taxation to overcome his economic burden, because after conquering a lot of areas and conducting many battles, he is having some economic problems. So to overcome that problem, he increased taxes and also introduced censorship. What is censorship? That means newspapers, media, freedom of speech and liberty were all under his control. These two also created some problems against Napoleon. So at last in 1815, in the Battle of Waterloo, this battle was fought between Napoleon Bonaparte and a group of countries known as Prague. Prague is a group consisted of countries like Prussia, Russia, Austria and Britain. And in this battle, Napoleon was defeated and it ended with the Treaty of Vienna. As a part of this Treaty of Vienna, once again, democratic rule was entered in France and a monarchy form of government was restarted by handovering the power to Bourbon dynasty because the members of PrAP were having conservative ideas. That means they believe and give importance to the monarchy rule or the king's rule. So they want to have that monarchy power in France. That is the Treaty of Vienna, which led to the ending of Battle of Waterloo in 1815. Dear children, watch this video very carefully and read your textbook 2 or 3 times. Okay, thank you.